How's it going, guys? So what I'm going to be doing in this video is, first of all, it is completely unscripted. I do have a couple talking points down, but the rest of it is unscripted. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to give you a quick update on, what's going on in my life and this channel. I'm going to talk about something I'm working on, and then from there, I'm just gonna, talk about some games I've played, anime and movies I've watched. Just for, instead of making a whole video on all those things, even though I have opinions, I could just, ramble on them unscripted. So first off, here's the update. I got a job. I know I made lots of jokes in my older videos about the fact that I was unemployed, and I made those jokes sort of happily, as being unemployed was a lot of fun, but I got a job now, so that is going to impact the frequency of videos. So it's a full-time job, so I'm definitely going to be uploading with less frequency. I would still like to make videos, but I doubt they're going to be, those 40, those 30, 40, whatever long minute videos that I have been making, because those take a long time to make. And I don't think, while running a full-time job, I'd want to make videos that take that much effort. Not saying I don't want to put effort in, but those take a long time, and I have something else I'm working on that I would like to put that time in on, and that is I am also making a video game. I've put up a couple videos about me doing stuff in Unity. So that's what I'm using right now. I am making a 2D game in Unity. I'm not going to say much details about what it is about, but I can talk about, what it's done, some of the ideas I'm doing with it. So what I've done so far is I do have like the base hyper alpha version of the game done. I have the rough draft of the script done, and so the base game is playable from start to finish. There's no animations, there's none of the art is even mine. I just, got art from RPG Maker and other random free sources. But all the basic mechanics and everything are done, so that's the stage I'm at right now, and I am currently working on the art. And when it comes to making the game, I want it to be a much smaller game. This isn't something I'm releasing, to make the greatest game ever of all time on my very first try. This is a game I'm releasing because I want to learn about the full production process of a game, have a game to my name, and essentially practice writing and pacing, and just everything that comes with making a game, all sides. So I am working on it by myself. If I had to say there was one mantra of the game when it comes to the development of it, I would say that is scope. So like I said, I just want this to be more of a small learning process rather than a, live service multiplayer game I'm trying to make $1 billion on. So that being said, the idea started off as, right now in the game there's no combat, and the idea started off with a combat system, and it's a turn-based system that I think is really cool. Well, in my head it's really cool. I haven't made it. And I haven't made it because it's hard to do, especially for a beginner. So I was working on that, and I realized that limitation. I was sitting there working on it. I got to the AI point of it, and I was like, oh god. Now I have to do AI? Jesus. So at that point I realized I was way in over my depth, and I cut combat out of the game. I don't want this to be one of those games where it's like, it was made by one person. It took them 7 years. They sold 10 copies. I'm not trying to be that person. I'm trying to get a product and experience in and out in a relatively fast time. So scope is the mantra. I cut the combat because for me, one person, that was out of my depth and would have added on so much time. And there's tons of other elements that I've thought about including, ways I can make the game better, but I decided not to include them, because do they improve the very base core of the game to the point where without this new idea the game is now good when before it was bad? If it doesn't do that, as well as it not being, something that's intensive to include, then I'm not going to include it for the sake of timing, scope, my own, ability / lack of ability. It's a practice in acknowledging that I'm still learning. Of course I always will be. Haha, lifelong learner. But it's an experience in I have my limitations, and I don't want this one idea to be dragged along by all my dreams and aspirations for the perfect game, because I'm trying to get into the gaming industry, or at least get to the point where I can work with a small indie team with other people, and I want to know the entire production process. I want to know what that all looks like, how all these elements work together, and I will not be able to do that if I keep adding ideas till the game takes 10 years to make. So if something is not a noticeable immediate improvement that is pretty quick, I don't include it. Sure, would the game be better with a lot of these ideas? Probably, but I have accepted that it doesn't have to be. It just has to be. If I can make the core good enough, that will be enough for me. So, but like I said, since I'm working on that, that's going to be what I'd rather spend time on than a heavily edited, and I would rather be working on the game than a 40-minute video. So like I said, I would still like to make videos, but at least in my mind, standing here looking out the window, I don't think they're going to be 40-minute long, heavily edited videos like the last ones. So now for the rest of the video, I just want to talk about some games I've been playing, some anime I watched, some movies I watched, just to, rather than making full reviews, I just want to talk about these things. So I guess first, going into games, I got Elden Ring. I had been holding off on buying that since I was unemployed. It's like, gotta save that cash, bro. I had enough games already that kept me covered for a long time. So once I got the job, I bought Elden Ring. I'm about let me check Steam. I'm about 19 hours in. It's a pretty good game. When it comes to the soul stuff, I haven't played Bloodborne, but I'd say if I had to give my top 2 of all the other ones I've played, which are Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1 through 3, and Sekiro, I would have to say Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro are at my tops, and I can definitely see Elden Ring joining that top 3. No particular order, but I don't know, it's been such a long time since I played Dark Souls 1 and 2 that I don't really remember them enough. And then Demon Souls, I liked it, but not enough to be in the tops, not even close. Mario Odyssey. I finally played Mario Odyssey. It is not my favorite 3D Mario game. It's a very good game. I 100%'d the game, I got all the outfits, stickers, souvenirs, whatever, all 880 moons. And doing that definitely brought the game down. I think from a gameplay perspective, just moving Mario around, he is the most fun Mario to play as. There's so many movement options, it's actually insane, and giving myself fun little challenges to do with the movement was a ton of fun. That was honestly, even after beating the game, I remember just sort of sitting there and being like, I could go for just moving around as Mario. That was so much fun. But when it comes to everything else, the level design, I honestly thought that was kind of boring. The obstacles were super quick, they were kind of shallow, everything was just, quick boop, you're done. And the movement made up for everything. The level design was amazing in the fact that there were so many options and direction clear within just the level design, options as in it is available to people of all skill levels, which was absolutely fantastic. But from my personal experience, from my skill level, I thought it could often be a little boring, and I had to create challenges for myself in ways of overcoming obstacles to make it a little more fun, so I could stress the movement system to its limits a little more. And then the worlds as well, honestly, they were not very memorable. I think there were some good worlds, like I think Metro Kingdom was good, but a bunch of them were honestly kind of a little boring. And then when it comes to 100%ing the game, trying to collect all those moons, some of those moons were not fun to get, and there were so many that's just, you know, kind of boring, honestly. Still a great game though. It's up there in my top 3D Mario games, which are Galaxy 1 and Sunshine. I'd say Odyssey is probably above Galaxy 2 and 64. I haven't played 3D World or whatever, but Odyssey is definitely a very good game. It was just some elements were a little boring, but Mario is so much fun to play as. And then I also played Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings, and The Lost Ocean. So Baten Kaitos is developed by Monolith Soft, though Tetsuya Takahashi, the Xeno guy, as far as I can tell, didn't have anything to do with it. But it was a very interesting game. And I use the word interesting very specifically because there were a lot of interesting elements, but a lot of elements that could have been executed on better. First off, I just want to talk about the voice acting. Holy crap, for the first couple hours of the game, I was struggling with the decision of turning off the voice acting. I eventually left it on and got used to it. But at first, well, not just at first, for the entirety of the game, but you get used to it. It is some of the worst voice acting in a video game I have ever heard. And it has horrible sound quality too. It sounds like they recorded it in a dumpster behind the building.
Where am I? My head.
Ah, I see you have awakened. How do you feel?
Who are you? Why am I here?
My name is Larikush. I'm the village doctor here at Sebelrai. They found you lying unconscious in the woods nearby and brought you here.
Anyway, Baten Kaitos was a really interesting game. Had a lot of really interesting elements, and I will say that if I had to say it's a good or bad game, I'd say it's a good game, but I'd give it like a 6.5, maybe 7 if I had to give it a score. The combat is a card-based system, and over the course of the game, cards act on real time while the game is up, and some of the cards will change over time. Like an early example, there is a healing item which is a bamboo shoot. You know, you eat it, you get healed, but eventually over time that shoot grows into a whole piece of bamboo, which now becomes a weapon. And there's tons of examples of that, like fish you can eat that eventually goes bad, flowers that go bad, other weapons that change over time for whatever reason. Tons of really cool ideas with that. As well as you can, put things in some things in the world in cards, other cards you have. I don't want to go into that. It's very hard to explain that without going deep into it, so I'm just not going to explain it. But you can put some items in cards you have, and some of those items will change over time. Like if you put milk into the cards, over time that milk will become yogurt, and then that yogurt will become cheese. And there's tons of stuff like that. It's just really, really cool. And then especially as somebody who has played Xenoblade 2, I tried looking this up, but not many people are talking about it. There are so many similarities between Baten Kaitos and Xenoblade 2. I really want to talk about it, but since I don't want to go into spoilers, I won't. But I would love to talk about that with somebody. There are, especially at Monolith Soft, there are so many elements from Baten Kaitos that were then directly used in Xenoblade 2, and I didn't know that. I played Xenoblade 2 well before I played Baten Kaitos, and it's like, holy crap. That's more than a couple things, honestly. I am really, really interested in having a discussion about that with somebody. But yeah, the story, Takahashi wasn't involved, so it's not their best story. If I had to rate it with all the other Monolith Soft games, which is I've played, which is all the Xeno games, I'd say it definitely ranks at the bottom. Yeah, that's about how it ranks for me. I still think it's a good game, and I can see why people do like it a lot, but that's just my personal opinion. The art style was absolutely fantastic too. Whoever was the art director on that absolutely nailed it. It looks so good, especially emulating it. It just looks so good. And then one other problem I do want to mention, which definitely had a heavy impact on my enjoyment of the game, was the animations. Xenosaga 1 had this exact same problem, where battle animations took a forsaken eon. It was unreal, especially... I gotta explain something a little bit. So you use these cards in battle, and like, let's say you start out, I think you can use 3 cards in a combo, and so each card has an attack animation. By the end of the game, you're using 9 cards in a combo. So an individual attack animation already takes like, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds. I want to say 5 just because this game had an impact on me when it comes to time. And then, so once you get to 9, one attack set takes forever. And then there are finishing moves, which is exactly where Xenosaga had the exact same problem. These finishing moves, I swear to God, take 12 to 15 seconds just for that move individually. And there are more powerful moves that they're called finishing moves, but they're just like normal cards that you use at the end of your attack chain, and the animations take forever. And Xenosaga had that exact same problem, Xenosaga 1, where the end of your combo's move took like 12, I'm pretty sure I timed it once, it took about 12 seconds every single time, just because they had this to show this crazy animation. And after 2 times, you're already like, holy crap, I don't want to see this ever again. But for every single finishing move, you have to see it for the rest of the game. And I swear to God, the game could be 10 hours shorter if they just cut down all these animations. I just had to let that out. That definitely had an impact on my ability to join the games. And then tons of other things where I felt like the entire game just ran at like 0.75 speed, even though it was running at 100% speed in Dolphin. It was just so many animations were super slow. The animations were really good, but everything was super slow. Like this one area, way late in the game, you're in this tower. I won't go into it, but you have to like climb up and down blocks a bunch, and you need fire to activate all the mechanisms in the room. But the deeper in you get to it, you can only hold so much fire at a time, and then you have to run all the way back to get more fire. In order to do that from one of the later rooms to the beginning and back, it took like 8 minutes with a single battle. I think it was like 5 minutes of straight running, even though the distance, like if we look at it in meters or feet, is not that far. But because everything goes so slow, it straight took 5 to 6 minutes. And then I got into one battle, and that one battle against a small enemy took 3 minutes. Oh my god, now I gotta talk about something else I just remembered. The leveling system as cool as it is, Jesus Christ, it got me into a pickle once or twice. A real pickle. So the leveling system, when you get enough XP to level up, you do not level up. You have to go to a special save flower. There are 2 save flowers, one of them is blue, one of them is red. You have to find a blue one, which is never in a dungeon. You have to go to a blue one, go to a different area, through the blue one, you go to this church, you talk to a guy, and then you can level up there. So if you're in a dungeon, you fight a bunch of monsters along the way in the dungeon, you cannot level up or power up throughout the dungeon. You either have to leave the dungeon, like run all the way back through it, which every time you leave a room and come back to it, all the enemies respawn. You either have to completely run away, like if you get stuck on the boss and you need to go level up, you have to run all the way back through the dungeon, level up, then run all the way back through it. Or, like in one case, I got stuck in a dungeon because it was one you couldn't leave. I got stuck there and I got stuck on the boss because it was a hard boss, and I guess my level wasn't high enough or whatever, and I got stuck on a boss for like many tries. And these boss battles take like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So it became really obnoxious to keep fighting him over again, stuck at the level I was at, because I'm not allowed to level up. And as cool as that idea was, in a way, it was definitely a big limiter as well to my enjoyment, because like, why can't I just level up? Sure, they could have done some more with that idea. They really didn't do anything with that idea. I was hoping they were going to do something really cool, but spoilers, they didn't. It's just a really obnoxious thing you have to do throughout the entire game that they could have done something cool with, but they didn't. Either way, that went on for a lot longer than I expected to go on for. Still a good game, but holy crap. Now let's talk about some anime I watched recently. First, I'm going to talk about Technolize. I like Technolize a lot. It is made by the same guy who did Serial Experiments Lane, and just like Serial Experiments Lane, I actually recommend it to very few people. It is such an incredibly slow burn of a show, but the payoff, for me personally, was worth it. I could see why other people absolutely would hate it. Like, the range I could see of scores people would give the show, I could easily see the range of like 2 to 10, easy, rather than like you watch a show where it's like that should be objectively between like a 6 and an 8. I could easily see the range of 2 to 10. It's that kind of show. And for the first couple episodes, I actually did not like it at all. It's an extremely dense atmosphere. It is like overwhelming and oppressive, and the soundtrack is so amazing. But for the first like 5 episodes, hardly anything happens. Nobody talks. And I was watching that like, holy crap, I don't know about this. It took me a while to watch it. And then it finally clicked. Especially once stuff started going on, and once stuff started going on, the atmosphere finally clicked for me. From then on, it became an amazing show. I don't think it will click for everybody, especially with how incredibly slow paced and sometimes obtuse it is, but the atmosphere, and oh my god, when it is good, it is so good. But again, I could see it not being ever good for some people. If you're the kind of guy that likes stuff like Serial Experiments Lane or other slow-paced shows, I definitely recommend it. The ending theme is so good, the soundtrack is so good, the art style, such a good show. I gave it an 8 on my anime list. Yeah, just a good show. I also watched Monster. For whatever reason, for the longest time, I had been straying away from long shows. I don't know, I think maybe that came from like some subconscious inferiority complex of the amount of shows I watched. But last year my goal was to play 52 games, so that's like a game a week. And this year my goal is to watch, I made this goal in like March or something. It was to watch 12 days of anime. So I started out with 55 days of anime watched on my anime list. No, it was 53. And so by the end of the year, I should hit 65 days of anime watched. Part of the reason for that goal is I have been slacking on anime for a long time, so that'll, kick me in the butt to get me going again. And the other reason for that is now that my goal is time-based, is to like trick my mind, and that now that my goal is time-based rather than, amount of series watched or amount of series I should watch or need to watch, it just comes down to time. So that opened me up to watching longer shows. So I finally watched Monster. And that show, I gave it's either a strong 9 or a 10 out of 10. That is just such a good show. Everything from the moment the show starts to the moment the show ends is incredibly well written. I really loved how it took place in Germany rather than like at a middle school in Japan, like tons of other anime. And all the characters, like most of the main characters were in their 30s or 40s or 50s or even higher, or there are some kid characters, but most of the cast are adults, and that was such a nice change of pace, and just it is such a well written story, well written characters. The villain is actually terrifying. The music is really good, but it sort of gives the same feeling like with Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII. I know that they wanted to give the feeling like, especially early in the game, like at any moment he could show up, he could be around anywhere, sort of that like ever looming and lingering presence. That is the same feeling that the main villain of Monster gave. There was always this lingering presence that he could be anywhere, because he was always somewhere plotting something, and just his presence was so heavy, and he was an actually terrifying character. He was just so well written. Every single character was well written. Even characters you only get there are a ton of side characters that get introduced, and the mystery just gets so dense as everybody is trying to uncover the mystery at different angles. Everything gets intertwined. Characters you even meet for a small amount of time get good backstories, and I just highly recommend it. It's an anime, especially. There's hardly anything anime about it. You know what I mean? But it's this is an anime. There's hardly anything about it like that. I think that this is even a show that people who don't like anime can watch. It's pretty much just it just happens to be anime rather than it is anime. You know what I mean? And I definitely I'm not saying that anime is bad, but I'm just saying this opens it up to people who do like anime, and it opens up to people who don't like anime, because it's just if somebody won't watch a show just because it's animated, they've got a problem. It can appeal to anybody, and it's just so well directed. It is really tense. There are a couple predictable moments in episodes, not with the story. That's honestly very unpredictable in a good way. But some of the moments, an event going on in the episode, it's oh, I know where this is going. But otherwise, it's just a really good show. I highly recommend it. I see why it's always been in the top 50 on my anime list, and you always see it in people's favorites. It was just such a good show. And then I also watched the new Batman movie, the one with Robert Pattinson. Honestly, I didn't love it. I thought it was a good movie. Firstly, we watched it not in theaters, but on our TV. Oh, I watched it with my girlfriend, by the way. Holy crap. somebody's really gotta sit these audio people down for a second. So when we usually watch TV, we usually have the volume at like 20 or 25. For this movie, in order to even hear a single line of dialogue, we had to take it all the way to 50. But then the moment something other than talking happened, it would be so loud. I was watching the entire movie almost with the remote in my hand. Eventually, like 45 minutes into the movie, we're like, alright, we're just turning it down, and we actually had to turn on subtitles just so that we could watch the movie at a realistic volume as well as understand what the people were saying. It was that kind of movie where they're just like whispering into each other's buttholes while in the background the music's all it was just so poorly mixed for a TV. It was honestly, how do people still have their jobs mixing stuff like that? I could do better than that, honestly. But to the movie itself, I think I definitely had an extra interesting view of the movie. One, I don't know, I've seen like several Batman movies, played some of the Arkham games. I know a fair bit about Batman, but not like a lot of dense stuff. I know general stuff, but my girlfriend really didn't know much about Batman. She hasn't even seen the Dark Knight movies. So when it came to the movie, they never like introduced any character. There's no like, there's the way it is written. She had to ask questions like the entire movie, because the way it is written, it is like, who is this guy? They never explain anything. It is written in a way that caters more to like, oh, you already know who this is. You already know Batman stuff. Like, they never introduce Jim Gordon, I think that's his name. They never introduce him. He just sort of like walks in, and him and Batman are already pals, slapping each other on the butt. And it's like, when did this happen? Everybody that knows Batman goes, oh, of course, that's Jim Gordon. But then somebody who doesn't know anything about Batman is like, what the heck is going on here? And it's the same for every single other character. They never really explain who the Penguin is. Everybody knows who the Penguin is, but in the movie, he's just kind of like, he's just the Penguin. But if nobody knows who the Penguin is in Batman, they're going to be all, who's this Penguin guy? Why does anybody care about him? He doesn't really do anything. And honestly, one of the reasons I didn't want to watch the movie is I heard Robert Pattinson's gotten like really good at acting. He didn't do anything in this movie, honestly. Like, he just sort of stood there the whole movie silently as Batman and as Bruce Wayne, brooding. That's all he did the whole movie, brood. So yeah, those are some general complaints about the movie. For me, it personally actually didn't feel like 3 hours, which is a good thing. I don't know how, because it was a really slow movie. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, I wasn't blown away, personally. I still thought it was good, I enjoyed it, but I think it hangs around the like 6.5 to 7 area for me. Oh yeah, and there's like so much backstory that's going on that's never really explained either. You just have to, I don't know, man, but either way, that's the stuff I've been up to and the stuff I will be up to. That's kind of my rambling update. Yeah, not much more to say. I hope to do, like I said, I hope to do more videos, maybe some like podcast style, maybe some other rambling type videos, more unscripted, just about if I play a game or an anime or a movie or whatever album that I just want to talk about, then I'll make a video on it. But otherwise, yeah, definitely don't expect any frequency, especially any scheduled frequency of videos. And of what will the videos look like, I don't know. But for now, this is just a ramble video. Anyway, take care of yourself.